Hello and welcome back to the Slaughter, everybody. Welcome back to Killing Floor 3, where today we're going to be answering the question, is Killing Floor 3 worth buying right now? Killing Floor 3 just came out about 4 days ago as of recording this video, and I have gotten to play it quite a bit. So first up, let's explain what Killing Floor 3 actually is. This is the third installment of the Killing Floor games, which is a horde-based shooter game primarily. It's not only shooter, as there is the ninja class. It's actually the class I've been playing the most, which is like a mix between ranged and melee, and every class can melee just like they could in the previous games. The way this game works is either you can play this solo or in multiplayer. Right now there's kind of two game modes with this, where there's the weekly and then there's just the standard survival difficulties. Survival is you survive so many rounds and by the end you fight a boss. If you beat the boss, then you move on to a different stage. Anybody can vote for whatever that stage is. Even if you end up dying, if everybody ends up dying, you can still vote for a different stage and then go to that one. There is also the weekly mission, which rotates once a week, which usually has some sort of modifier on it throughout the entire week. This happened in Killing Floor 2, where once a week, there would be a new weekly challenge that you can complete, and if you completed it, then you would usually get something. Right now, we don't really get anything from this, other than potentially a little bit more XP, because I was comparing it to regular missions as well as the hard missions. I'll talk about the difficulties here in a second. But for the most part, it's just like a different, potentially more or less challenging game mode depending on who you're playing and what the modifiers actually are. This was the same thing that it was in Killing Floor 2, although with that one we also got skins every week, at least if you could complete that. At least that was usually the thing you got. And if you already had the skin for that weekly, then you would get like a cash reward, which would count towards the supply crate. Supply crates are gone so far in Killing Floor 3, so there's not like randomized loot, which is probably good because a lot of the randomized loot in Killing Floor 2 was kind of garbage. Like, a lot of the free stuff, yeah, you could get some really cool skins. You could get, like, all the Vosh skins, which were usually, like, gold and silver on your weapons, or gold and black. And it's like, those look really good on most of the weapons. The problem was that those were fairly rare. Even on my game, I don't have all of the weapons with that, and I have, like, 2,000 hours in Killing Floor 2. So, like, I didn't even get all of that. I probably could if I recycled all my stuff, but that took even longer, and sometimes the servers would bug out. It's a solo to a 6-player game, so you can have 6 people in the lobby, and there is matchmaking, so it can throw you in. There's also crossplay this time around in Killing Floor 3, unlike what there was in Killing Floor 2, where there was kind of crossplay between the Epic Game Store and Steam, but that was about it, and that was the only time you really seen any sort of crossplay. It wasn't between like Xbox and PlayStation. This time around, you can actually link up with anybody on any of the systems, so that's a big improvement. So this is going to be more focused towards multiplayer rather than solo, although you can play this game solo, and it can be really fun solo as well. So if you just like fighting off waves of enemies, you can do that. There's a bunch of different weapons, not nearly as many as there was in Killing Floor 2, at least as of right now. We'll talk about a roadmap here in a little bit. The 3 difficulties are normal, hard, and hell on earth. Normal is what you start out on. It's fairly simple. There's not really a whole lot going on. Enemies don't hit you that hard. You usually have plenty of time to heal up, plenty of time to grab your supplies, and usually there's just less enemy spawns overall, and enemies tend to be slower. So you're probably going to start out with this, and that's what I'd recommend if you're brand new to the game, or you just have low-level perks, or you're going to be starting out on hard, which hard in this one does seem like more of a step up than hard in Killing Floor 2, because hard in Killing Floor 2 was like barely a step up, and you got like double the XP from it, so it was like, why don't you just play on hard when it's slightly more difficult? So hard is probably going to be the difficulty that most people play on. Hell on Earth, I've tried a couple of times, and so far I've been unsuccessful in it. It feels like I need a couple more levels with my class, because levels do seem to make the most difference in this. Speaking of the classes, we have 6 classes right now, or 6 specialists right now. That will go away, though. We're not going to actually be having these people permanently tied to these classes, so it's not going to be like you have to play Mr. Foster to play Commando or any of these characters. You can swap off of them whenever you'd like, so you could play Mr. Foster as the ninja, you could play him as the medic, you could play him as the sharpshooter. Quick rundown of the classes though. Commando uses assault rifles, does a decent amount of damage, has his drone to attack things. We have Firebug, does a lot of fire damage, AoE damage, burns a lot of things, scares a lot of things, has a big AoE as their gadget. For Engineer, uses shotguns and explosives, kind of like a mix between support and demo from Killing Floor 2. He has a sonic wave gun, which is kind of weird, and then a bouncing Betty that he throws out. I've played him probably the least of the classes. Sharpshooter uses rifles, at least in Killing Floor 2 they also use like bows and revolvers and stuff. We'll have to see. They do have a revolver right now. They have the Cryonade, and then they've got a arrow that just seeks out enemies with their ult, so that's kind of cool. We have Ninja, who's mostly melee and kind of tanky, has some range in like their shurikens, their throwing knives, bow and arrow, things like that. A lot of their weapons, I think actually all their ranged weapons, you can just pick them back up, so that's pretty cool. And you can also block and parry with different melee weapons, as well as you get bonus movement speed with the melee weapons. Their gadget is also super fun, where it's just a grappling hook that you latch towards enemies and then hit them. And then we got Medic, who's, I'm just going to say, probably the most overpowered class in the game. They were in Killing Floor 2, so I imagine they're going to be in this. I haven't played them that much, but just going over their abilities, they seem kind of busted. Where basically, you get better heals, you get better healing towards allies, you can heal allies with your guns, not necessarily from shooting them, but you usually get healing darts or healing grenades on your guns, so you can shoot them. And then your ult just puts down an area where it just denies everything, and you get to stand in and get healed. It's kind of crazy, and you can apparently get like 2 of those, which sounds even more crazy, and your medic grenade is insane too, because you throw it on the ground, it heals everybody, poisons everything else, and in this it can even break, and then you can pick up more syringes to just heal yourself even more, so yeah, I think they're going to be busted. As well as you can kind of see that each class has their own little bars here of roughly what they're going to be. I wouldn't really trust any of these because that wasn't really accurate in Killing Floor 2 either. This is the more interesting part, is the proficiency bonus. The more you level up your character and the more points you put towards your character, even in skills that you're not necessarily using, you do get these bonuses, so you can get extra movement speed, extra melee attack for the ninja here in Z time. Moving from perks to weapons, here's kind of a pro and a con. So right now there is only 5 weapons per class. There's 1 secondary and there is 4 primary weapons. You can still cross pick weapons. The amount of weapons is kind of disappointing. They did say that there's going to be more on the way, with at least 4 more that have been teased, with a lever action rifle, a double barrel shotgun, an M14, and an AK, which, I mean, those are all weapons in KF2, and those were all pretty loved weapons in KF2, so it's kind of cool that they're going to be coming back. It's kind of weird that they weren't here, and the weapon designs are kind of janky right now, especially for certain classes. Like firebugs are particularly weird, with like a flare launcher, a strange double barrel shotgun. We've got like kind of a weird looking flamethrower, and then sort of like the Temu Spartan laser here, which I've kind of liked the name that somebody said about that. And there is a brand new weapon upgrade system in Killing Floor 3. So for example, with my ninja, you can have either like the base sword, or you could even customize your sword to be much more damage, higher blocking power, and higher stamina drain, at least in this case. And you can also even get some interesting bonuses, because everything now with the upgrade system, whether you build it or not, has its own bonus ability. So with like this blade in particular, you get a 2.5% bonus melee damage and 20% more bash damage. Kind of interesting, and some of them can get kind of crazy, and I feel like that's going to be more important the later rounds you go to just build towards something that does more, as well as your upgrades do kind of do more damage, where like this one has stun affliction as opposed to this one having toxic affliction, and these do scale the more points you put into them or the more upgrades, as well as you can get all these upgrades from killing different Zeds or destroying equipment around the map. We do have assignments, which are basically the same thing from Killing Floor 2, which is just daily orders and weekly orders. We get more XP from this, which is good, so you just level up faster from doing these, and the supply XP is for like unlocking different things. The Codex is basically just a rundown of all the things that you can do, pretty straightforward, and then we also have the supply pass and the store. The store is just kind of what you'd expect, so you can either get like a supply pass, you can get a premium, or you can also buy credits here. All of this is going to cost actual money, but you can also get the Vosh here, which was also in KF2, and this one can be used for different things, like whether you want weapon skins, or whether you want like a complete bundle of different clothing and stuff for your characters. On top of that, the supply pass here basically works the same way as War Bonds do for Helldivers 2. Where you can get them, and then you can buy different things within them, and you can just keep unlocking these. These points you do get for free. You just have to do certain things, basically achievements, like kill so many of whatever enemy it is, use a particular class so often, run so far, use a zipline so much, things like that. Pretty straightforward, so I definitely like this over like the loot crates that we had in Killing Floor 2. Now, there are some other cons in this game too. One is that it is kind of buggy right now. I have it like bugged out multiple times trying to play the game, where bosses have sometimes just got stuck in the ceiling or the floor, and like that was in the beta too. They get stuck in different ways, so it's not the same bug that I was seeing in the beta, but that has happened. I've seen like abilities get used multiple times out of nowhere, or just like random shots being fired like faster than they should be. That's like a really weird one, where you go to fire one shot and suddenly it'll just fire like 2 out of your gun way faster than your gun should be able to fire. Usually it happens on like the last 2 bullets in your gun, but I've seen this with like the grappling hook from Ninja, where it's just fired itself multiple times, one after another, even if you only push it once, and I don't know why that is. It's kind of the same thing with like blocks for Ninja, where sometimes it'll look like you parry something perfectly, but you'll still get hit by it. Then you'll get like the perfect parry afterward on like nothing. It's really weird. So like there's definitely some bugs throughout this game. There's definitely some odd stuff about this game. Last thing we should probably talk about is the price point of this game too, because this is $40 or 40 euros. I'm not sure what it is in other countries, but at least for US and I guess anybody using euros, about 40 bucks. And that's actually, I think, kind of okay for this sort of game. It's not like the $60 or $80 that we usually see for games like this, which I mean, like, $80 price tag is absurd, but like 60 is kind of what I was expecting this to be at. 40 is, I think, a bit better. Like I said, there's a decent amount of pros and cons. Biggest pro to this, I think, is the gameplay loop. It's still very fun. If you liked Killing Floor 2, you're probably going to like this one, at least in terms of gameplay loop overall. There might be some things that you dislike, whether that be characters, at least right now, where you can't really pick your own character and stay with that one, or the limited amount of weapons or classes. We do have more than what Killing Floor 2 came out with, but that came out a while ago, where we had just the 4 weapons for each class. We have 4 weapons in this, not counting the secondary. And then we also have like the weapon customizations, which does add quite a bit more variety. So like kind of pros and cons there. If you're not entirely sold on this game and you're not just like, I want to play Killing Floor, I want to get back into this, I liked Killing Floor 1 or I liked Killing Floor 2, I would suggest maybe waiting like a year for this and then seeing how it changes and then decide then if you want to pick it up, because it's probably going to be cheaper then. It's probably going to go on sale fairly often at like, you know, 30 or 20 bucks or 25 bucks or whatever it might be, in which case then it might be a bigger seller to you. They'll probably add more weapons. They are going to be adding more classes. With their roadmap, they kind of said that they're going to be adding new maps to this, the 4 new weapons that I said, and they're also going to be adding the Gunslinger class to this, which is pretty cool. Gunslinger was really overpowered in Killing Floor 2, so it'd be cool to see it in this as well. And I'm not sure if we're going to be getting the other classes, because it seemed like they kind of rolled some of them into one another, where it's like SWAT and Medic sort of got rolled into one, and then same thing goes with like Demo and Support kind of got rolled into one. I'm curious if we're going to end up getting like Survivalist again, and if everybody's going to say it's garbage, even though it's not the worst perk in the game at any point, but whatever. A little bit of a side tangent there. Either way, would I recommend this game? Yeah, if you like Killing Floor, and if you like co-op based games, if you're a fan of like Darktide, Vermintide, things like Deep Rock, Killing Floor, stuff like that, Left 4 Dead. If you're interested in that and you want to have just like a fun co-op game to play with friends, it's a pretty good game. If you're concerned about the bugs, if you're concerned about the performance, because the performance has been kind of iffy too. I changed some settings and that seems to have fixed it, but even so, like I've had my OBS lock up, which has been weird, where it's just been stuck on like the title screen, and I have no idea why that is. So like some of the replay buffers are just like 10 minutes of the title screen that I put on there. It's like, alright, you might want to wait a couple patches and then pick this up. So I don't think this should be high priority or anything like that. But if you're into this sort of thing, and you want like more of a horror, like COD Zombies sort of game, you know, maybe check this one out. Either way, tell me your thoughts on it. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.